Initial reaction, I was glad because everybody was getting drafted. I knew it was coming. So it was about time. Just got, well, everybody was. They didn't have numbers in those days. They didn't have the draft like that. In those days, if you weren't in an approved 4-year college, you were classified eligible for induction. And I had dropped out of school, and I was working, and it wasn't very long until I got graduated. Rick Raskin. I was in the Army. Okay.
So, how long did you serve in the Army?
I served 3 years.
From
66 to 69. 3 years and 6 days.
And do you have any favorite things about being in the military?
Did I have any favorite things about being in the military? Yeah, getting out. It was, no, seriously. Favorite things?
Things you enjoyed?
I met a lot of people and saw a lot of places. And a lot of did things I'd never done before.
Right.
I saw part of the world I'd never seen before. And probably would have never seen it. So,
what do you think was the most memorable moment?
The most memorable moment for me was when that plane took off from Cameron Bay to fly us home. And when the wheels left the ground and we got in the air and the pilot announced that we had cleared Vietnam's airspace, everybody cheered. That was a memorable moment. That was one of them, yeah. So there were others.
Use one word to describe the time in service.
Life-changing. Yep.
Besides that,
the military, I grew up in the military. Okay, I was a kid when I went in, but I grew up, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what was going on. The military gave me the confidence to go out and succeed in life, finish my education, get a job. They set my career path, and I didn't even know it at the time. So I had a successful career that probably wouldn't have happened. I probably would have done okay, don't get me wrong, but I rose to a level that I never thought I would ever rise to when I was employed as a civilian. I was working as a movie projectionist in a theater running films. If I didn't get drafted, I probably would have stayed in that for a while, but I would have probably been doing something in the theater business or exhibition or something like that. Yeah, it did, but I probably wouldn't have. Probably would have stayed. Probably wouldn't have amounted. Yeah, who knows? But that's probably where I would have stayed at least for a while.
do you think if you weren't drafted, you'd still enlist by choice?
I'm sorry?
Do you think if you weren't drafted, you'd still enlist by choice?
No, I wouldn't have enlisted. I don't think so.
You still keep in touch with friends that you made?
Well, there's a couple of us that keep in touch. It's not an everyday thing. One of the guys is a writer, retired school teacher. He's written 4 novels. He lives in California. We stay in touch on the edges. Another guy's a retired police officer who lives down in Florida, and I hear from him occasionally. And those are really the only two.
Anybody over there?
I met this old Papa-san who used to work on our site. He was hired as a carpenter, at least that's what his badge said. But he was a general go-around handyman, gopher kind of guy. And I got to know him because I could speak a little French, and he could speak a little French. And I didn't speak any Vietnamese, he didn't speak any English. But with French, I got to realize that this guy was pretty sharp. And I didn't really get to know his family or anything, but yeah, I got to know him as a person. He was a nice guy. He's probably long since dead. He was a nice guy.
He was from
Vietnam. He was a Vietnamese. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a Vietnamese guy.
Were you staying in
more northern than south?
I was in the central part of the country. It was called 2-4. It was not the DMZ. No,
At the time, right?
you have to remember, DMZ was the northern part of it. It was the northern boundary at that time. I was halfway between there and the southern boundary. I was on the coast of Vietnam, where Vietnam juts out into the ocean. On the eastern coast, yeah.
Did you ever go back to Vietnam after?
Yeah.
After the fact? Oh, you visited it?
Yeah, I went in 2010.
How was it?
In the 20th century. No, I didn't recognize a lot of things. There would be deja vu moments when I went to Nha Trang, where I'd been. There were some deja vu moments. I remembered a pagoda that was there, Long Song Pagoda. It's still there. And there's a picture of me standing in front of it in 1967. And there's another picture of me standing in front of it in 2010. And we titled the picture 43 Years and 43 Pounds. And other than that, most of everything that was in that town is all been built since the Vietnam War. I have a picture of overhead shot of the city from up on that pagoda, and the only thing in that picture that was there in 1967 is the mountain in the background.
Oh, wow.
Everything else has been rebuilt or added to it. Yeah, it was. They've come a long way. I mean, with 43 years. I mean, come on, they've definitely come a long way. Typical day in the army. We all had jobs, and for the most part, you just did your job and hoped you didn't have an attack or something like that. But we didn't, you didn't think about it a lot because it didn't happen that often. We had 6 months, probably 6 months when nothing happened. But then, everything, things would blow up around you. But you just went about doing your job. 5 o'clock, something like that. We had guys working 24/7, but we were working pretty much 12-hour shifts. But I didn't work really a shift. I did what I had. I was in charge of doing. We were still building the site, so I was doing some of the electrical work. I was also handling supplies. I was working some in communications, and so it was my job to get those jobs done, and it really didn't, you just work sun up to sunset or however long it took.
After your shift was done, did you do anything yourself?
Well, when I initially, where we were was right next to the Special Forces compound. We were near an airstrip. The Special Forces, the 5th Special Forces, the Green Berets, they were the adjacent compound right next to us, so there was a little space in between. And they would show movies over there at night. And so we would go over there sometimes. They had a club where you could go in and drink a beer or get something. They had a theater where you could see some movies. Eventually we got a projector and we'd have them on our site. But the first 8 months or so that I was there, we'd go over there sometimes. Other times we'd go into the town of Nha Trang and just go around and do what soldiers do, drink and other things. But yeah, there was downtime, but you had to be aware that you were in a combat zone and anybody could be the enemy. And they used to say, the old joke was, "Don't go to town without your guns." Although we didn't really do that.
How did you feel about the media's representation of the Vietnam War?
I think they're liars. I think they're liars, absolutely. I saw a situation occur where we were hit one night, and I woke up and all I could see was fire outside the tent that I was sleeping in, and they blew the smithereens out of a bunch of helicopters. The story in the media was that there had been a slight incursion and there was minimal damage and no friendly casualties. And that's what they said. That's not what I saw. Okay, I didn't see anybody killed at that particular time, but I saw helicopters reduced to molten slag. Yeah, C-130 aircraft all blown up. Yeah, so I think they lied a lot. I think they have a political agenda, and they still do. I don't trust them.
Trust what you see.
Believe what you see. Yeah, absolutely.
I had one, though. I forgot. It was way back, and now I'm trying to remember. Once I got come, it was. Anyone else have anything? I guess a final wrap-up question: would you recommend it to anyone to enlist in the military?
Absolutely. It's life changing. I think that, given what they're doing now with multiple deployments and everything, that's something you have to deal with. But I think that the military gives you the opportunity to really develop yourself. And you come out of there with an attitude of I can do anything. I'm gonna put it to you bluntly. There's a whole lot of negative energy out here in society trying to beat people down and tell you that you can't do this or you can't do that, or you'll never get this, or you'll never get that. And part of my expression is that's all a bunch of hooey. You can do anything you want to do if you put your mind to it. And I think the military gets you thinking that way. I just wish, I wish I'd known that when I was a teenager. Because when I got out of the military, I went back to school. I got a job, a good job, and I went up in that company, and I had a great career. And I think that the military had a lot to make me successful. I mean, absolutely. You get a positive attitude there. It ain't a damn thing in the world that I can't do if I want to do it. There's no such word as can't. That's what I would do. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you for your time. All right, I'll be snooping some pictures like you guys are doing.